Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We are up to episode number 61, if you are keeping score, and as always, I am your host, Rick Jenkins. It's time for another industry outlook, and today we'll be talking about the hospitality and tourism industry, which along with agribusiness and advanced manufacturing drives the South Carolina economy. The sector attracts millions of visitors each year who are drawn by our beaches, our mountains, our cities, and yes, even our sports teams. The industry also fuels job creation and local business growth. Hotels, restaurants, resorts, and entertainment venues support countless families and generate substantial tax revenue. Here to talk about it all is Ben Campbell. Ben is the president and CEO at Hospitality America, a full-service hospitality management company located in Greenville. But before I get to Ben, I do want to thank our presenting partner, Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd. They're one of the premier legal firms in South Carolina. Founded more than 130 years ago, Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd now has 5 offices and more than 110 attorneys doing business across the Carolinas. They have experience litigating in many industries, from IT and real estate to healthcare and manufacturing to construction and telecommunications. Thanks again to Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd for helping to make it possible to bring this content to the business community in South Carolina. All right, let's get to it. I am now joined by Ben Campbell, the president and CEO at Hospitality America. Ben, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. It's great to be here.
It is good to have you here, Ben, president and CEO at Hospitality America. Before we get into this industry outlook, which I've really been looking forward to this because, South Carolina, hospitality and tourism really drives our economic engine to a great degree. So this is going to be a fun conversation. But before we get into it, you work at Hospitality America, CEO there. You've been doing it for a couple years. Tell us what they do.
Yeah, so we operate hotels for HIZ owners, and we have 20 hotels today east of the Mississippi, about 900 employees. And so we operate hotels, we consult on development, but what that means is we run those businesses for the owners.
Right. Now, what do you do?
So what do? I lead the organization. Yeah. So I'm out there looking for new opportunities. I'm helping our owners and making decisions for new developments. I'm running the team day to day, helping to ensure that all of our hotels are being successful and are hitting all the metrics that we should be hitting: top line revenue, profitability, and making sure that we hit the return on investments that our owners expect.
Well, I think that's a really good background to have the conversation that we're getting ready to have today. And we're going to talk a lot about hotels because it's a huge part of the tourism industry. But let's start by just discussing the impact that hospitality and tourism has on South Carolina. Now, it's a huge impact. It's $29 billion a year. Now, that is nowhere near as substantial as the advanced manufacturing industry in this state. Of course, that's over $200 billion. But it is in the ballpark of agribusiness. But it's a big number, and here's how you know just how big that number is. South Carolina ranks number 8 in the United States in terms of the economic impact that hospitality and tourism has on the state, okay? We're talking about $30 billion. And if I say number 8, you're, of course, going to be interested in knowing who the top 7 are. So let me just say that, and then we'll talk about what that number means. So we're talking California, no surprise. New York, Florida, no surprise. Texas, a little surprise to me. Nevada, of course, no surprise with Vegas. Georgia, Illinois, and then South Carolina. Big dollars, right?
Yep, big dollars. And it takes a lot of effort to market the state to get that. But, I think it doesn't surprise me necessarily. So many conversations that I have when I go around the country talking to people, I'd say I'm from South Carolina, and they say, "Oh, I know of South Carolina. I've been to Myrtle Beach." Right? So many of the people that are not from our state, they introduced to our state through Myrtle Beach, through our great coastal areas, Charleston, and then obviously Greenville now being an up-and-coming market for our state. But I think it comes back to, Southern hospitality. That's always been in our blood. It's always been how we were raised. I'm born and raised Greenville, South Carolina, in the northern part of Greenville, and I was raised that way. right? We always take care of each other, and meal times on Sunday afternoons, what that looks like. And hospitality, I think, is just in our blood.
Let's talk about trends.
Sure.
Tell me what trends you are seeing in the tourism industry that are impacting South Carolina right now.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of COVID, we kind of knew that there was going to be some weirdness, if you will. Our state did a great job capturing a lot of the demand that was there when people weren't traveling internationally, or they weren't going to the traditional port cities like New York City, LA, Chicago. We were attracting a lot of those individuals to our beaches, to our coastal towns, to our lakes. Greenville, we did a great job shifting a lot of business from Asheville down here to Greenville. Coming out of that, that pent-up demand that we've kind of talked about, where the stimulus money has been burning off in individuals' pockets, our leisure demand has diminished, but all that means is we're getting back into more traditional booking patterns. So we're going after a lot more corporate. Corporate is coming back in a big way. Conferences and conventions are coming back in a big way. Through COVID, everybody thought, or a lot of people thought, that conferences were going to be dead. No, who's going to get into a big conference center, 1,000 people anymore? Well, we're human. We all want that social interaction, and today they're coming back in a big way.
All right, let's move on. Ben, let's talk about which areas of South Carolina are going gangbusters, right? Greenville used to be a gym. Okay, I've been in Greenville for 21 years ago. It used to be a hidden gym, excuse me. Yeah, it's always a gym, right? It used to be a hidden gym. I've been here 21 years, no longer a hidden gym, right? And so I know Greenville is probably looking pretty good on whatever statistical charts that you look at. But give me an idea of other places.
Yeah, I mean, like I've already mentioned Columbia. I mean, Columbia is one that a lot of people sleep on. It's has a good mix of business, I would say. Charleston on the peninsula, that is no secret, but North Charleston has actually been one that when I was growing up in the state of South Carolina, you heard North Charleston in the airport area. It wasn't a great place that you thought you'd want to visit.
Well, at the time, it was way out there.
And way out there. And so with the manufacturing that's come in with Boeing, with a few of the others, Somerville and North Charleston are actually now kind of blending together. And that's a market that we just opened a hotel, an Element by Marriott, in the North Charleston market, and it's doing really well. So I'd say that's been a good market. Somerville, again, it's a good market. Not in hotels. It's been, we'll see. But from a livability standpoint, from the restaurants that are going in there, I know a lot of restaurants are doing really well. It's at Somerville right now.
What about TR, Travelers Rest?
Yeah, now you're getting up to where I grew up, and so so I grew up above TR, up in Campbell area. Okay. And I would say, it is definite. The Swamp Rabbit Trail has helped the Travelers Rest market greatly. But from a hotel side of things, I think it still has some maturing to do. Downtown Greenville is just going to be the big demand driver. And how do you shift, some of that demand up to Travelers Rest, I think, is to be determined. And it'll take the right hospitality makeup, what that hotel, what that restaurant looks like. I think it'll get there, and there's some good hotels there now. I know some that do pretty well, but so I think Travelers Rest could get there one day.
So you talk about Greenville, we talk about hotels. This is what I've noticed that has happened in downtown Greenville is that we open a hotel and we open a hotel and we open a hotel, right? And it seems like the demand, I'm assuming the demand continues because you wouldn't be opening hotels otherwise. Now, maybe every time we open a few, one of them goes by the wayside somewhere, right? I don't know how that works, you do. But I'm always somewhat surprised that the demand obviously continues to grow. Is it because of Greenville? Is it because of South Carolina in general, the industry in general?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's something we wrestle with constantly. I mean, as you know, we're in the business of having quality hotels. Well, we can't stop the person next door to build another hotel to shift dynamics, and so it's about building more demand generators. And this goes back to my comment I said earlier about you were saying that in the state of South Carolina tourism is $28 billion. Well, that doesn't come cheap. we got to spend marketing dollars to get
Invest.
that, right? And we have to invest. And so Greenville today, our CBB, our destination marketing organization, Visit Greenville. A lot of the viewers may recognize, that Greenville, right? That came out of that organization. And, we have constantly, as more hotels come on, we increase that budget. And so it's a nonprofit organization that spends all of the money that it generates. And so while their budget may be, a quarter of what Myrtle Beach's might be, we've been very, very smart in how we target, who we target, what that demographic looks like. Obviously, we have a lot of opportunity with Atlanta and Charlotte being so close and those being drive-to markets. But one of the things we struggle with is we have a lot of collective assets that we could sell, like the mountains, like Paris Mountain, Table Rock, Caesar's Head. You see a lot of that in our marketing. But we don't have a beach. We don't have one singular thing besides, our great downtown, our great Main Street, and a lot of the other assets. So one of the things that we're trying to push across the finish line now is a conference center, something that people can come into. We can hold larger meetings to help fill the occupancy and demand for the hotels. And, available space has been a hot topic. Where do we put it? What's the best place for Greenville? There's a number of places that it could potentially work. But there's clear that there's demand that, meetings want to come to Greenville because of our food scene, because of our hospitality, because we keep getting voted as, one of the nicest cities in America. We have a lot of the makeup of why meeting planners and corporate planners want to come to Greenville. We just need a place now that we can bring in thousands of people, stay in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, and meet.
We have a conference center, but it's outdated. It was built for the textile industry many, many years ago. It is huge, but we do not have a downtown conference center, which, of course, is what you need in order to draw corporate type of things. But Charleston does not either.
North Charleston. So you're saying
that's right, but that is a huge expo type feel center in North Charleston.
Same with ours, right? And
that's right, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. Now, Columbia, they do have one downtown that I think does fit the bill. But I would say that Charleston and Greenville does not. But boy, it would be good to have.
Yeah, I mean, and so there's a difference. We have a convention center.
Yes, that's right.
Right, and that's more of
a conference center.
A high-end conference center that you can have that. For the BMWs, the Michelins, bringing in a lot of that manufacturing high-end meetings into downtown, right. Even the tech industry. I mean, right now we're in a great spot because of where we are on 85, located between Atlanta and Charlotte. It's a great meeting place. And then easy to go up 26 or down 26. Greenville's got a lot going for it. But even Columbia has the convention center that's there. They're looking to expand it as well because their makeup is a little different. They have a lot more exhibition space than they do high-end meeting space. So they're having to go through that as well.
Ben, before we leave, the hotel subject in terms of the demand for them, I'm going to talk about occupancy rates for a second. I'm just guessing that because of all the hotels that I have seen go up, that occupancy rates have to decline in terms of, generally speaking, over a geographical area. Is that true? Or are there so many hotels that are leaving that I don't even know about that the occupancy rate stays up?
Yeah, it's a fascinating phenomenon if you think about it and look at it. I'll start high level and then I'll kind of work down to maybe Greenville or Columbia specific. High level, yes. Right now, the short term is the occupancies are going down nationally. The large piece of that is the amount of cruise occupancy that has gone up coming out of COVID. We're seeing that Airbnb short-term rental is increasing as well. And then we are net negative on international travel currently in the U.S. We have more U.S. Tourism leaving and going to Europe or elsewhere than we are getting net back inbound. And so that's having an effect. Pre-COVID, we were actually having net positive versus international versus domestic. So that's a large piece of it.
If I may interrupt,
Sure.
is it possible that a political climate influences foreign travel?
Somewhat. I mean, short term, we've definitely seen that. Like in South Florida, we operate 4 hotels in the Miami market. Canadian travel just stopped in February,
Right.
which has impacted them. And then they get a lot of South American travel as well, which also hurt. I would say, yes, on the short term, that can have an effect there. Longer term, what we've actually seen is the strength of the dollar has affected us. So coming out of COVID, the dollar being so close to the euro, we're not seeing as much. We're not considered a discount anymore for European travelers to come to the U.S. And so they're spending their dollars where it makes economic sense for them to. And so that we're seeing a little bit more of that.
Let's move into technology. Things like artificial intelligence prop up their head everywhere, right? I mean, almost every industry is impacted in some way or another. Artificial intelligence and the technology that is moving at a mile a minute. And the way that it impacts hospitality, from my perspective, is this thing called smart hotel, right? We all know in South Carolina what a smart factory is in terms of how it is run by greater and greater technology advances. But tell me what a smart hotel is.
I think we're still figuring that out. I mean, there's some groups out there that are pushing the limits. We don't have too many of them here in South Carolina, but in a lot more tech-friendly markets I've been to, they don't even have a front desk. You're literally checking in on your app, and you're going straight to your room. And so Hilton and Marriott have a version of that, but we still have front desks, obviously. We haven't quite figured out how to automate cleaning a room. And once we figure that out, maybe it'll...
That's a game changer.
Yeah, that would be a game changer. But, I think it just goes back to the guest experience side. The guests are demanding more coming out of COVID. They just are. They're demanding more in service because they're paying more. And so what that means is a lot of them, especially here that are traveling to South Carolina, expect that Southern hospitality. They don't want to check in on a tablet, or they don't want to check in. They want to be able to know what the experience that they're going to have. And so for us, that's our opportunity, right? And we say all the time, our guest service should be intentional and individual, right? We want to get to know who the individual is because everybody's going to have different expectations, and we want to deliver on them. It's the only way that we feel that we can be successful.
I didn't think about asking you this until, I've heard you talk. But something else that has changed is tipping,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Tipping is more prevalent, or the request for tips is more prevalent today than it's ever been. Almost anywhere you go and you purchase something, now they'll say, do you want to add a tip to it? Whereas before, we would never tip on whatever that might be, correct?
Yeah.
And now it has gone from a standard tip of 15% to 20 and 25%. Is that impacting the industry in any way?
I think from the restaurant side, yes. But what we do is we challenge our associates. I mean, if we want a 25% tip, then we need to be giving the exceptional service. And what we're finding is a lot of our guests and consumers are saying, yeah, I'm willing to reward that great service, but it's not an expectation, right? If I'm buying a coffee and they flip the Toast tablet over and it says 10 to 20% tip, well, I'm willing to do that if I'm having a great experience with it. What we're actually seeing is on the housekeeping side, coming out of COVID, a lot of our guests, that even though their expectations are higher, they actually know and recognize that it's just hard to clean that room. And it is really hard. And so we about 2021, 22, a lot of our guests said, hey, how do I leave a tip for the housekeeper? And so we now have a company that we partnered with, that we have QR codes that you can actually leave a tip to the associate, no matter if it's housekeeping, if it's at the front desk, if it's valet. Just make it a lot easier because not everybody carries cash anymore.
Ben, I'm going to get you out of here on this. Let's talk about the future a little bit. Look into that crystal ball and tell me what type of trend that we might see coming down the pike. What is it that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years that will impact the industry?
I think holistically, the number of hotels, go back to your point of hotels that, come online and you're not seeing too many that come offline. The back half of this decade, I think we will see some really high quality hotels and experience. I think the consumer is demanding that, but I think there a lot of new development's going to be hard. The development that you're seeing today that's coming out of the ground or that's being opened, a lot of that planning started pre-COVID. So you're seeing that just finally come to fruition. Projects that are trying to get out of the ground today, it's really, really difficult because of inflation of cost, inflation of capital. The capital cost to get in these hotels is massive. Especially demographically on the back end of this decade, where the baby boomers have now left the market, especially the workforce. And now they're taking their capital out off of the sidelines and spending it into retirement. What that impact has on capital is yet to be seen, but I think it's going to be harder to get those deals done. And so what you'll see is a consolidation of firms that know how to do a hotel deal, know how to get one out of the ground like us and like our partners. And so you'll see really high quality hotels that come online. And then the advancement of technology. AI is going to, 2 years ago, we hardly even talked about it. Now, 6 months, it's insane the advances that we're seeing. And we're seeing it in every single industry. So I think decisions will happen quicker. And so, I think how that impacts on our top line revenue to our bottom lines, we're just going to find marginal gains after marginal gains after marginal gains. And so I think the back half of this decade will be really, really positive for us as operators and owners, but I think from the guest perspective too, because the products will be high end.
AI, like you said, it is moving at a mile a minute. I don't think we can even envision what artificial intelligence will do and how it will impact all industries here in the coming years. Regardless, that's another topic for another day. Ben, excellent, excellent stuff.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed that. Folks, that is Ben Campbell. He is the president and CEO at Hospitality America, which is headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina. Extremely smart guy, very insightful. It's a good conversation. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We'll see you next time.